So it's a nice warm sunny day here today, pretty humid, and it's time to clean out the chicken run. Now, I haven't cleaned out the chicken run in about a year. I did it last spring. I got 7-8 wheelbarrow loads of compost out of it, nitrogen rich compost from their manure, and today it's time to clear it out again. So let's see how many wheelbarrow loads I get out of this today. Alright, so that's the first one. Now I think because space is limited on my camera, that I'll just hit record for each wheelbarrow load going out and not record the loading. Just not much point in that. So this is one. This is number two. So this is their run. You can see the hole that 2 loads being removed has done. This is a mixture of sawdust and leaves and poop and whatever food they didn't eat. Load number 3. Looks like my camera shut off. I'm not sure why. Just brought out load number 6. The girls go back and forth now between the freshly dumped out compost and the freshly dug hole looking for worms. I'm a little out of breath. This here is the last load, and if you've been keeping track, it's load number 8. So I at least broke even with last year. Let me dump this and we can talk about the whys of some of this thing. That took a little bit of effort. Now, there's going to be some of you wondering why I would bother with waiting so long. You know, what's the value, what's the worth of saving up chicken manure? Why bother to put it on the garden? Various questions like this. So I'm going to try to answer some of those that I can think of off the top of my head to save you a little trouble. So, during the winter, in particular here, I can get a fair bit of snow. The chickens not having any snow boots or socks or anything, they get a little intimidated by being out in the snow and going on snowy ground and such. Also, of course, I'm not doing much gardening in the winter. So at that point in time, it makes a certain amount of sense to dump all the sawdust and manure that they produced inside the chicken coop out into the run. This provides them with a drier surface to walk on. They're messy eaters, so there's often some food left into it, and they are smart enough to recognize the fact that some of that food will attract various insects that they might like to eat. Oh, that sun is bright for me. Hi, Dolly. You want to come up? No? So that's one of the reasons that I put all the sawdust out in the run. That and my compost bins have gotten pretty full over the winter. Just barely able to have room enough to provide space for the household kitchen scraps, that kind of thing. So, again, it made sense to put all the sawdust out in the run. Now, during the fall, I had picked up and saved a lot of garden waste leaves. So, before you get the wrong idea, most of what, at least half of what was in the run is broken down leaves. So we have nitrogen and we have carbon mixing. Didn't have a great resource for potassium, but I do what I can with what I got. I have a very small garden, and these 8 wheelbarrow loads will be enough to give me a good top dressing of nitrogen rich compost. I don't want to call it anything else because it really is just compost at this point. The leaves have mostly broken down. There's still viewable leaves into it, but the girls love scratching through it. So all through the winter, I would get in there with a hoe or a shovel or a potato fork, and I'd mound it up. Funny enough, the chickens hate having hills in their run. So all during the winter, every time I mounded it up, they'd come out, and because it never really froze that well, they'd spend a day and they'd tear it all down flat again. This mixes the sawdust and the leaves and the composted manure. Everything gets turned regularly, so it helps break it down. Hi, Shakira. You okay with this? So, the manure is well composted, but it's still probably, because I'm not a great gardener, I don't know everything, I don't know a lot of things, I'm figuring this is still pretty raw, nitrogen-rich kind of compost, meaning that it probably needed more time to break down. I'm hoping with the addition of the leaves that I had put into the mix that it had taken some of that out. But in case it hadn't, my planned planting date is about May 24th weekend. So having a couple of weeks now before that time, I'm hoping that wind and rain and the chickens will help break down this composted manure more and make it more easily digestible for my garden and for the vegetables that I plan on planting here. You want to come up too, Dolly? No, you're busy? So what's the point of putting all this in my garden? Well, first off, it's a lot of organic matter. It's a lot of sawdust, which will help loosen the soil. The leaves will accomplish that as well. But the chicken manure is nitrogen rich. So if my garden over time has become nitrogen deficient, this will help fertilize it. So all the leafy greens, all the stuff that wants to grow on top of the soil, to produce big green vegetables, big any color vegetables, they often rely on nitrogen, is my understanding. So if you got enough nitrogen in the soil, then things will grow up nice and big, strong, and healthy. If you're nitrogen deficient, you're going to come out with stumpy, rusty, maybe some ugly vegetables, things that have not grown as well as their potential would suggest. So nitrogen could be one of the things. Now, before this gets to the point that I'm planting, I have some potassium heavy fertilizers in the shed, cheap stuff. I plan on mixing it with water and watering down these compost piles in the hopes of adding more potassium to the mix. So when you're looking at fertilizer, it could have numbers like 5, 5, 10. That 10 number is the potassium. It's always in the same order. So it's nitrogen, carbon, and potassium, as far as I understand. Again, I'm not a great gardener. I haven't got any education behind me for this. It's just what I pick up over time and what I've seen on YouTube videos. So if I'm wrong, make a comment, let me know. Be kind and gentle about it. We're all trying to be friends. But I'm hoping that now that I have the chicken run cleared out, that all this compost will help out my garden quite a bit. The next 2 weeks, I would actually estimate in the next few days, the girls will have spread all the compost and manure around. There's actually a fair size pile over in that corner, and there's some behind the camera. So all in all, it has a lot of the garden to spread and travel in order to get everywhere. Now I am going to be doing my part on this. It's not just for me to bring it out here, it's also for me to help spread it where I want it. So as the girls are working it over and moving it around looking for bugs, because it is... What'd you do, Dolly? It is very loose and easy for the chickens to dig through. They will move it around a lot looking for bugs, but I will be pitching in and making sure that it ends up exactly where I want it. Now, one of the questions I'm expecting to be asked a lot by a viewer is, didn't that reek? Isn't that a strong smell? That must have been disgusting. Truth of it is, with so much sawdust and leaves mixed in with it, the only time I had any amount of smell was when I hit a undisturbed portion of the ground, and then yeah, it smelled kind of like open sewage, but it didn't last very long. The breeze coming through the chicken run was more than adequate to blow it away, and after the initial shock, it was okay, it's gone. So it didn't last very long. Not too great of a smell. That was Dolly. She didn't feel like being up. My girls are kind of cute and cuddly, but only to a small degree. I don't spend a lot of time down here trying to get them used to me. I don't put a lot of effort into making them pets. So they're comfortable with me. They will let me approach. They will let me handle them. But they don't want to be up in arms very much. So for the last point, let's have a look at the run. And I'll show you the difference of, well, hopefully you can see the difference if the lighting is not terrible, of how much we actually pulled out and what it looks like now. So this is what the run looks like now. There's still a bit of a smell here. You can see some of the staining marks of how high up the wood here that the dirt had gotten. This had all been buried in. And that's the view from their side. So the ladder is actually fairly steep. Now, I will get a little bit more of this compost out of here. I'll rake it over and get everything out of this that I can. But it's mostly done. I hit the wall a couple of times and made a bit of a mess. But when I rake up, that'll be taken care of too. So here's the major pile. I piled 4-5 loads here in this location. Not sure if the camera is doing it justice for that. So there's another pile and another one here by the wheelbarrow. So it's been a couple hours and they've already started to spread it out. So me and Liliana are outside today, this evening, for a little outdoor time. And I'm filming while she's trying to get into trouble. So as you can see, a little bit of time has passed and the chickens have quickly started to dig in through the hill. And they're digging through looking for bugs and seedlings and whatever they can find. And they will eventually spread this pile out completely. And then I'll mound it up a little bit more and way to go. So that's the end of my video. The temperature is going down. It's a few hours after I filmed it. The chickens are spreading out the manure and looking for bugs and seedlings and getting into whatever's there. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you'll come back and see me again. Maybe you felt it worthy of subscribing. I'd be glad to see you come back the next time. If you have a comment, leave it down below, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm a hobby channel. I put out videos when I got something to record. So if you want to see me become more larger channel, more invested, I need more subscribers, need more views, comments, all that kind of thing to help encourage me on the way. So I hope you're having a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.